Good morning and welcome to Saturday, January 14th, 2023. This is Just Parlays with Chris King. Of course, I'm your host, Chris King. Let's start off the show by talking about how I know everyone's disappointed that Scott Steen is retiring from the video business, so to speak. As far as his daily picks, he's moved up to a different position in the company. He's done a great job over the last several years, but he's doing something that will benefit everyone, and you can still get his premium picks as well. But a great job by Scott over the last several years, and I'll still see him, and you guys will see him for the next few weeks on Once Upon a Time in Las Vegas, the rise of the greatest sports betting show in the world. As we talk about the NFL playoffs, and that's right, it's playoff time. We've gotten through 18 weeks of the regular season, and now we see 14 teams battling out for the right to hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Of course, we'll be down to 8 teams by the time Monday night comes to a close. A lot of stuff to talk about there. A lot of stuff to talk about around the world of sports in general. As everybody knows, Saturdays are a jam-packed day when it comes to college basketball, where there seemingly, when I was looking through all the games last night, seemed to be a never-ending list, well into the triple digits, conference play all over the place. Ought to make for a very entertaining contest. Or not contest, but a very entertaining schedule. Some very good games on the board around college basketball. There's a 14-game slate in the NHL. There's 7 games in the NBA, including an afternoon game with the Bucks and Heat. Kind of weird to see a game that early in the day. But what can you do? Let's see, what else can we talk about? What happened yesterday? Well, depending on what you were watching, there were some decent games. There were a couple of blowouts, too, let's face it. We saw on the ice, none of the games were close. We saw Anaheim beat the Devils 6-2. Edmonton blew out San Jose 7-1. And Winnipeg, who had gone, I believe it was 5-23 in their last 28 visits to Pittsburgh, took down the Penguins 4-1. NBA, we saw a record for attendance because the Spurs and Warriors played at the Alamo Dome. I'm thinking the Spurs wished that they hadn't shown up, as they were drubbed right out of the building. 144-113. Phoenix, is there a team more disappointing in the NBA right now than the Phoenix Suns? Everybody talked about how they were going to be great. They made the finals run a couple of years ago. They still have the core of their team, and you go and you look in the standings, and the Suns are 10th in the West. They're 2 games below 500. They've lost 8 of their last 10. And when you see teams like Sacramento that are ahead of you in the standings after how bad the Kings have been in recent years, you have to wonder what in the world is wrong with the Suns. Of course, while they're only a half game out of being out of the playoff picture, they're also only 1 game out of a guaranteed playoff spot in the West, which isn't quite as strong as it's been in recent years. A little more parity in the league this season. Whether that's good or bad. Yeah, the Knicks won. I had them on one of my parlays. I got it up at the Knicks at 3.5. A lot of people afterwards, the line went to 4, so it ended up as a push. But the Knicks have played some good basketball. Tom Thibodeau actually has that team playing defense again. Having R.J. Barrett back is a plus as well. The Knicks have to learn to win at home because they're just a 500 team at home compared to 13-8 as the visiting team. Speaking of teams that need to win on the road, Well, I mean, Golden State's now 4-16 as a road team. Philadelphia gets to go on the road tonight. They'll play Utah. 76ers 8-9 as the road team. They played 24 games at home and just 17 on the road. So Philadelphia's got to win some road games down the stretch in the back half of the season if they want to improve their standing in that crowded Atlantic division, where 4 of the top 6 teams of the East come from the Atlantic in Boston, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and currently the Knicks. And then the Raptors are trying to put things together. They've won 3 in a row, so that's something. Whether they can maintain that momentum remains to be seen. Let's see, what else is going on? Well, I mean, yesterday was a good day on the premium front for me. I was in individual games since I'd have both. Individual games, I went 6-0-1 because in our system, the Knicks line was 4 by the time I got to putting it up. And on the parlay side, both 4-teamers from yesterday paid out. One was 11-1, one was 13-1. So if you're one of those people that are on my premium picks, you had a good Friday to set up the weekend. So if you're not, there you go. You should get in there and get involved in that. And if you use the promo code, let me see what the new one is because I didn't get a chance to look at it this morning. Promo code PRT50RVCK. You can save 50% on any premium packages or plays. So that's a pretty good deal when you can save 50%. I'll put the promo code in the banner on the bottom of the show once I figure out where to put it. Give me 1 second. There we go. I can just, I can edit that one. There we go. Let's see. Of course, everybody was, I'm sure, thrilled with the national championship game on Monday, where the game was over probably around the time you went to get a snack, because TCU was blown out of the water. It was not a good game from that perspective. You have to wonder, are we going to see more games like that when the playoff field expands? Are we going to see some competitive stuff? I mean, let me double check, make sure this is right. Yep. Okay. I personally am looking forward to seeing the expanded field because it'll make things more entertaining because you'll have more teams playing for something down the stretch. We won't see too many of the we won't see too many of the teams scheduling the little sisters of the poor for non-conference games because everything will mean something. Good to see you, Joaquin. Hope everything's good with you. It's still weird being on 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Not fully awake yet, so bear with me while I drink Dr. Pepper and such. All right. Now, of course, got to do the typical housekeeping stuff. Make sure that you like and subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. So that way you know when the show is going to be on so you don't miss it. As of right now, it's Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. We're still contemplating whether we're going to move it to Friday nights to make it a little easier for everybody so they have more time leading into Saturday's games or not. We'd like to hear from you guys to see what you want, what works better for you, whether it's Friday morning or Friday night or Saturday morning. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about as far as stuff going on today with the wild card games, and because there's 2 today, 3 tomorrow, and then the Monday night game, which I'm sure everybody's thrilled to see the 8-9 Bucks host a playoff game against the Cowboys. But yeah, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell. Let everybody know you're watching the show. Let us know you're watching the show. Make sure you comment. Tell me what you're thinking about betting on today, or what you think of what we're talking about, all that good stuff. Also, like I said, if you haven't gotten my premium picks yet, the link is in the show box. Or you can just go to experts.winnersandwhiners.com and you can find me, of course, Chris King, mixed in with all the other guys, Dave Delano, Mason Foles, Steen, Loud, who I know you guys have seen a few times. And use the promo code roll across the bottom there. But I think I typed it wrong. Hold on. I did. It didn't copy over what I typed in. So let me fix that. It's going to be one of those days, apparently, where technology does not want to cooperate. All right. Give me 1 minute here while I fix this. This is where it's tough when you don't have a co-host to fix this stuff. Because Jim used to do all the random stuff like this because he was more familiar with how StreamYard worked. See if it actually saves this time. There we go. There's the actual promo code. Got to work that time. 49ers under, Chargers under, Bruins under, Carolina, Oklahoma, and Philadelphia. Well, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of points in the 49ers game. San Francisco is going to be content to grind the clock and wear down Seattle's defense, which has been horrible as far as tackling goes all season long. The Chargers, I don't know. You don't know what you're going to get out of that. If Jacksonville plays as poorly as they did offensively against Tennessee, then that's definitely viable. But if this turns into one of those pass-happy type of games, you never know what's going to happen. I think you'll see a lot more of Travis Etienne than you did against the Titans. So he only carried the ball 7 times. We know the Chargers don't stop the run. So that should be interesting for sure on both sides of the ball because the Jaguars don't stop the pass. The big question will be, can Josh Palmer step up and replace the production they would have gotten from Mike Williams before he had gone down, or before he went down with that back fracture, which of course put Brandon Staley getting thrown under the bus for playing his starters in a game that meant basically nothing. Weather in San Francisco is going to be bad. The Jaguars might not score 38, but they might score 20-something, and the Chargers could obviously put up 20-something. You have to remember, in that first game back in week 3, still used to call them San Diego sometimes. The Chargers were a walking mash unit. Herbert was one game after having his rib cage busted up. Bosa was hurt. Rashawn Slater got hurt in that game. Keenan Allen didn't play. There were some other guys. I don't remember if Williams was playing at that point or not. But a lot of injuries on that Chargers team. They're a little healthier now, which is important. But obviously the Mike Williams injury casts a pall over things for them. The Bruins and the Leafs. Last meeting, I think, was ended up 2-1. Something like that. Both teams very good in the defensive end. I can see that one definitely staying under. North Carolina, I can't figure out what they're going to do from game to game. You watch that team and they'll play good basketball for a while and then they'll wilt. We saw that against Virginia the other day. We saw it against Pitt a couple weeks ago. Last week I took Wake Forest with the points against them. But they've been streaky. They started 5-0, then they lost 4 in a row, then they won 4 in a row, then they lost 1, then they won 2, and then they're coming in off a loss. I mean, the plus side is they're playing Louisville, and Louisville's bad. But, Louisville's covered three or four games in a row now. I know they covered against Clemson. They covered against Wake. They covered against Syracuse. Depending on the book, on New Year's Eve, they either covered or pushed against Kentucky. And they covered against NC State. So that's 5 straight. I know they're a 2-15 team. They're 0-6 in the conference. But with North Carolina, it's like a box of chocolate. You don't know what you're going to get there. Oklahoma, I have to remember who they're playing because I looked at so many college basketball games last night. It was ridiculous. Oklahoma, West Virginia. Never count out Bob Huggins. And you look at Oklahoma, they've lost 3 out of 4. They don't play well in close games. All 4 of their last 4 games have been decided by 5 or less. They're 1-3. They also have a 1-point loss to Sam Houston State earlier this year. They lost to Villanova by 4. This is an Oklahoma team that I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. They just seem to lack a lot of veteran leadership. I mean, Sherfield came from Nevada. Tanner Groves, of course, he's played at Eastern Washington. So did his brother. But after that, those 3 guys are seniors, and you look at the rest of these guys, and you're like, these guys aren't doing anything. And the 76ers, I actually like Philadelphia. Utah playing the second game of a back-to-back. They went to the wire last night against Orlando. If the 76ers can win a road game, this would be a prime opportunity for them to do so, facing a Utah team that's going to be worn down. Let's face it. I know people are like, well, it was Orlando, so what? Well, you still had to play 48 minutes. And meanwhile, Philadelphia has been resting the last couple of days after they got whipped by Oklahoma City at home. But you look, and that game was on Thursday, so they were off yesterday to travel. Philadelphia's got to play more consistent basketball, too. They've just been maddeningly inconsistent. I know injuries have taken a toll at times. Tobias Harris is questionable tonight with a sore knee, but you've got Embiid, you've got Harden, you've got Maxey, you've got enough talent there to beat a Utah team that is tired, for sure. Now, with that said, making sure I'm not missing anything else that was fun and exciting. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about Akron beating Eastern Michigan by 37 yesterday, which I'm finding highly unlikely. We can get to the heart of business, which, of course, you're here for parlays, right? That's the name of the show. So we can start with 3 for the money. We're going to start with, of course, the first game we just talked about, the 49ers over the Seahawks. I've seen the line as low as 9. A lot of places, 9.5. I saw a couple places had it at 10. You look at the first 2 meetings this year. San Francisco won 27-7 in week 2. They won 21-13 in the second meeting, which came in December, in a game where Purdy was just getting in the groove of being a starting quarterback after Garoppolo got hurt. That game coming on December 15th on Thursday night, where good football goes to die. In that game, Purdy was 17 of 26 for 217 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. And, the 49ers had a chance to win the game by double digits. They ran the ball Purdy picked up a first down on a 3rd and 1 with about 3 minutes to go to help grind out the clock. And Jordan Mason ripped off a 55-yarder down to the 2. And then the 49ers kneeled down rather than punch it in and do some damage. But in that game, they ran for 170 yards against the Seattle defense. Christian McCaffrey, 26 carries, 108 yards, and a score in that game. Seattle has had problems when it comes to stopping the run all year. You look, they are 30th against the run in the league. They're 21 rushing touchdowns. They're 26th in yards per carry allowed at 4.9. None of those numbers are encouraging when you consider that San Francisco in the 2 meetings this year ran for 189 and 170. And those are just not the numbers you want to have when you're going against a team that can run the ball. And you look back in that first meeting when the 49ers were a completely different team. And their leading rusher in that game was none other than Jeff Wilson, who now plays for Miami. He had 18 carries for 84 yards. Samuel had 4 for 53. And Tyron Davis-Price had 14 carries for 33 yards. That was the game where Lance injured his ankle and was taken out for the year. Garoppolo came in relief. So both games this season, the 49ers have had to have a quarterback come in relief for their starter against the Seahawks. You have to hope that doesn't happen today because that means Josh Johnson, the well-traveled Josh Johnson, would get the call. I think the 49ers will win this one by double figures. I don't have a ton of trust in the Seattle offense going against a very, very good San Francisco defense. There's no reason to put faith in Seattle now, given the miracles that they needed to get to the playoffs as it was. The Hurricanes over the Penguins. We talked a little bit at the top of the show about how the Penguins were beaten at home last night against the Winnipeg Jets. Now they have to go on the road to play Carolina in the second game of a back-to-back situation. Tristan Jarry is out with a lower body injury, so they started Dustin Tokarski last night. It's supposed to be Casey DeSmith tonight. He hasn't been great. 5-8-2 with 317 goals against a .904 save percentage. This is a Penguins team that has lost 7 of their last 9 games, including a 4-3 loss to Carolina in overtime at home back on December 22nd. The Hurricanes coming in on the heels of a 6-2 blowout win of Columbus on the road Thursday night. One interesting thing, if you're looking at totals, Carolina has gone over in 6 straight games, 8 of their last 10. Hurricanes have quite a bit of offense. They're also 12-5-1 at home. Pittsburgh just 10-9-2 as a road team. But like I said, they've been slumping of late. And if Jerry is out for any extended period of time, which currently is the ever-popular out indefinitely, they could be in trouble goaltending-wise. Not a spot you want to be in when you're facing a Carolina team that is very good when it comes to putting the puck in the net. Finally, we've got Austin Eckler over 5.5 catches. And you're like, well, why? Have you watched any games with the Chargers this season? They throw the ball a lot. Eckler very involved in the passing game. Didn't have a big yards per carry or yards per catch this season. Just 6.7 yards per catch, but that's because their offensive line was beat up. But he caught 107 passes while rushing for a career-high 915 yards as well. and he's found the end zone 18 times. I wouldn't mind playing an anytime touchdown prop on him, except for the fact that it was minus 190 or something like that, which I thought was a little ridiculous. There's no guarantee anybody's going to get in the end zone with that kind of success, where you're basically giving, 2 to 1 odds that he's going to end up in the end zone. But yeah, 107 catches over the course of the year. You look at his, he had 3 games where he caught double-digit passes. He had 8 games where he caught at least 7 balls. 9 games where he caught at least 6. He never caught less than 2 balls in a season, or 2 balls in a game. Both of those coming later in the season against Tennessee in that game in Week 15 and against the Chiefs in Week 11, which was weird that they didn't get him involved in that one. But he did run the ball for 83 yards in that game. I think the Chargers are gonna try to beat the blitz, dump it off, get some easy yards, and Eckler is about as valuable of a safety valve as you're going to find in the league when you get right down to it. Especially with Williams being hurt and having to slot Palmer in there, you're taking away your big receiver in the red zone. I think Eckler can be a very valuable receiver out of the backfield here. And I think he'll probably catch 6, 7, maybe even 8 balls, depending on game flow and what's going on. And if you're getting it at plus money, why not? You look at the payouts there, 326.94. If you just do the money lines, that's because of the prohibitive number for the 49ers. If you play the points and the puck line for Carolina, 920.60. So about 9 to 1 on that one. Not bad at all when you get right down to it. That takes us to everybody's favorite segment as far as when we are doing the show every day, and that is 4 for the show. There's Philadelphia. We just talked about it a couple minutes ago. They had yesterday off. Utah had to play Orlando. Went down to the wire. They blew I think they were up double digits, and then let Orlando back in the game. Had to hang on right down to the very end because it was a 1-possession game in the final seconds before Utah managed to win 112-108. I just don't know how this Jazz team matches up with Embiid. He just blew them up in the first meeting earlier this season when he hung, I believe it was 59 points in a game where the rest of his team didn't score anything. Let me just double check that since but yeah, Philadelphia, they've got the star power. They need to start playing like a team that's motivated to make the playoffs and make a run. Yeah, in that game back on November 13th, Embiid poured in a career-high 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, and 7 blocks. In a game the 76ers won 105-98. So he had 59. The rest of the team had 46. And Maxey had 18 of those. Harden was hurt at that point, so he was not playing. Tobias Harris was 4 of 12 and had 8 points. He was the third leading scorer. Utah, they've got a lot out of Lauri Markkanen. And they managed to hang around 500 despite, trading away most of their key players before the season started. Mitchell's gone, Gobert's gone, Bogdanovich is gone. In their places, about 472 first-round draft picks over the next 6 or 7 years. And a bunch of guys that you're like, why the hell are these guys still in the NBA? But, they played well. I just don't think they're going to beat Philadelphia in the second game of a back-to-back situation. The Kraken, boy, you talk about a team that has played some pretty good hockey of late. It's the Seattle Kraken, who don't look now, are third in the Pacific Division. They're just 4 points behind Vegas for the top spot with 2 games in hand. They've reeled off 7 straight wins The best part about this game, well, you can take your pick. Is it the fact that they're playing Chicago, a team that's 11-25-4, and at the bottom of the Western Conference? Or is it the fact that they're playing this game at the United Center? Because the Kraken, they're just 10-8-2 at the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle this year. On the road, 15-4-2. This Kraken team not intimidated by playing away from home. You look, during this win streak, they've beaten the Islanders at home. They beat Edmonton on the road. They beat Toronto on the road. They beat Ottawa on the road. They beat Montreal on the road. They beat Buffalo on the road. And they're coming off an impressive 3-0 blanking of the Boston Bruins, the big bad Boston Bruins, who lost for the first time in regulation in 23 home games in that contest. So the Bruins now 19-1-3 on the ice at TD Garden this season, that coming at the hands of the Seattle Kraken. Now, sure, you can be like, well, what if the Kraken are looking ahead? Well, that's a good part about being a second-year team. You don't necessarily get that idea of looking ahead against anybody because you're still new. They've got Tampa Bay at home on Monday afternoon, and then they have to go to Edmonton Tuesday night. So they'll have a 3-game and 4-night stretch Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday because they'll go to Edmonton, then they'll come back for New Jersey on Thursday, Colorado next Saturday, and then they get a few days off before playing Vancouver on January 25th. But then they'll get Calgary and Columbus on back-to-back nights, the 27th and 28th, before the All-Star break. And then they'll have a whole week and a half before they have to worry about taking the ice again. So, but yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, Martin Jones, a guy that everybody pretty much gave up for dead in San Jose. You look at his numbers, 25-3 with a 269 goals against, 3 shutouts, which is tied for second in the league. Despite just an .898 save percentage, which is 37th among qualifying goaltenders. But in the month of January, since the new year, Jones 6-0, 134 goals against, 946 save percentage, 2 shutouts. He's allowed just 8 goals on 149 shots. He's 12-1-1 on the road this year, with 263 goals against, a 905 save percentage, and all 3 of his shutouts. So, hey, give it up for Martin Jones, a guy that, like I said, he was pretty much given up for dead in San Jose over the last few years because he wasn't very good. Then he struggled in Philadelphia last year. He was 12-18-3 with a 343 goals against and a 900 save percentage. Didn't have any shutouts. This is his lowest goals against since 2017-18 when he posted a 255 mark with the Sharks when he went 30-22-6 in 60 games. Since then, he just fell off a cliff. He went to 294, then 3, then 328, then 343. So perhaps playing in Seattle where there's not as much pressure because of the fact that, hey, nobody expected you to do anything. You were supposed to be the backup to Grubauer. You got to give him credit. He's done good work over there for the Kraken and kept them afloat when Grubauer was hurt. And now he's pretty much taken the mantle as the number 1 guy. I couldn't believe that they shut out Boston either, Joaquin. I thought the Bruins were going to win that one. I figured they might win by a goal, where the puck line would have covered for the Kraken. I didn't expect that they were going to get blanked. I figured it would be a close game, but there's no way I would have sat here and said that Martin Jones would blank Boston on 27 shots. So, I mean, kudos to Seattle. They're doing a good job there in their second year in the league and making things interesting. The Raptors over the Hawks. Atlanta playing the second game of a back-to-back situation here. They barely got by Indiana yesterday. I took Indiana with the points. It was like plus 3.5 when I had taken it. They won. Atlanta won by 2. You're looking at Clint Capella still probably not going to play with that calf injury, so he'll miss I think it's his 9th straight game. You look at the numbers in Atlanta, they're 20-22. In the second game of back-to-backs, though, 1-4. They scored just 106 points a game while giving up 111.6 in that span. Toronto's won 3 in a row. They're trying to become relevant again. They're 10th in the West, 10th in the East right now, half a game in front of the Bulls for the final spot in the play-in tournament. They're 1 game behind the Hawks, so they could move into a tie for 9th with a win here. I just can't put a ton of faith in an Atlanta team that doesn't play defense. They try to get by with their offense. They try to get by with Trae Young and everybody piling up points, and it doesn't necessarily work for them. Because if you can't stop anybody, let's face it, you're going to have problems, and that's why Atlanta's 2 games below 500 at this point of the year. Then for the small conference game of the week, there are no small conferences, just small people. I'm going to go with Bryant over New Hampshire. I know New Hampshire's 3-1 in the America East. Bryant 2-2, but New Hampshire's just an 8-8 team overall. I like the way Bryant plays basketball. They're a pretty good team. I know they lost to Vermont. They lost to UMBC. But they bounced back with a nice win over Albany earlier this week. I backed them in that game against the Great Danes. And you look at New Hampshire, I know they're at home. I know New Hampshire finally beat Vermont earlier this year, but it's not the same Vermont team that has been in recent years. They're coming off a win over Maine on the road. They beat Albany too. They lost to Binghamton rather soundly. But New Hampshire, Bill Harrion, he's doing the best he can, but they're not a great team. They play a very slow pace. They're horrible shooting the ball. 338th in effective field goal percentage. 257th in offensive rebound percentage. 359th of 363 teams in 2-point shooting at 41%. 324th in offensive efficiency. It's going to be a clash of styles because you look, New Hampshire, like I said, 328th in tempo. Bryant, 6th. So Jared Grasso on the Bulldogs is going to look to run early and often and try and get Harrion to play his team's game up there at the Lundholm Gymnasium. I just think Bryant will run New Hampshire. Will run New Hampshire into the ground and pick up the win. Danny asking about LSU and Bama. Well, I'll tell you what, Nate Oates has got a good basketball team. Let's not take anything away from him. I watched him coach at Buffalo before he took the job up there, or down there, I should say, in Tuscaloosa. They're coming in with 5 straight wins, all 5 by double figures. You look, they beat Mississippi State by 11 in Starkville. They blew out Ole Miss by 22. They blew out Kentucky last week by 26. That Kentucky team, talk about a disappointment. You've got all this talent, all these McDonald's All-Americans and everything else. You got Tshiebwe, the player of the year from last year, and you just get destroyed. Then they got beat the other day by South Carolina in Rupp Arena in the game they were favored by 20 in. And then you look at Alabama took down Arkansas, a team that's ranked in the top 20 in the country. They beat them solidly in Fayetteville by 15. You're looking at an LSU team that comes in with 3 straight losses. They lost at Kentucky. They lost at Texas A&M. They lost by double digits at home to Florida. Matt McMahon, his team started off 12-1, but 3 straight losses, all in conference play. not moving the needle much. I don't think that LSU is going to hang in against an Alabama team that will run you into the ground and plays good defense to boot. Alabama third in the league, or third in the nation in tempo, 74.1 possessions a game. They're third in effective field goal percentage defense at 42%. LSU is okay shooting the ball, but they're not great. And they are just 230th in tempo. And most importantly, I think if you're talking about LSU, this team doesn't have depth. It's not as deep as they were a year ago before everybody decided to leave after Will Wade got fired. I know McMahon brought some players with him when he came over from Murray State. But there's a big difference between playing in the Ohio Valley and playing in the SEC. I think that's something that KJ Williams and company have found out. I would take Alabama. I would take the over. I think that Alabama is going to probably hang 85 or so against them. And LSU will be forced to try to play catch up. And I think LSU is probably good for, 65, 70 points. It should go over the mark. So there you go on the 4-teamer there. And that takes us, of course, to everybody's entertaining part, as Jim Williams used to call the Chinese menu. You take some from column A, you take some from column B, you put it together however you want. That's right. It's the shot in the dark. Before we get to that, of course, let me point out again, make sure you hit the like and subscribe and ring the bell, all that good stuff, so you know when the show is going to be on, in case we decide to change time slots. You never know. But as of now, it's still Saturday mornings at 9. Like I said, yesterday was a good day on premiums. Like I said, 6-0-1 on the individual game side. On the parlay side, both 4-teamers from the parlays cashed yesterday. Would have paid out over $2,300, I believe it was. One was better than almost 11-1. One was almost 13-1. So good night yesterday. Going to try to keep it going today. If you haven't gotten promo code, or if you haven't gotten premiums before, use the promo code that's rolling across the bottom of the screen. You can save 50% off. Can't go wrong with that. And you can use that on anybody's promos. Premiums doesn't have to be mine. You can use that on Steen's or Dave's or Mason's or Loud's or Ben the Pen Hayes, who's been on a roll himself in the NBA. Use Dave Hess, whatever. Ideally, they'd be mine, but if there's somebody else that's doing well, jump on them too. That's what it's all about. The Celtics over the Hornets. I mean, does anybody really have faith in the Hornets? I know Jaylen Brown is probably going to miss this game with a groin injury. Does it matter? When you're talking about a Charlotte team that's 11-32 and has more road wins than home wins? Probably not. These teams will actually play twice. They'll play today, and then they'll play Monday. Both games in Charlotte. The first meeting in Boston, or earlier this year in Boston on November 28th, was a close game with the Celtics squeaking out a 140-105 win. We're looking at a Charlotte team that has lost 3 straight, 6 of 7. Boston has won 5 in a row, 8 of their last 10. They're coming off a double-digit win on the road over Brooklyn. Brown is listed as out from what I'm seeing with that groin. He's got a adductor tightness. Meanwhile, you're looking at a Charlotte team that Hayward is doubtful with a hamstring. Oubre, of course, still out with a torn ligament in his hand. You're taking away 2 of their best scoring options on a team that can't play defense. I think Boston will take care of business. That line moving already. It's at 8 or 8.5, depending on the books. Good to see you, John. I was wondering if you were going to show up. I figured you were going to ask about IUPUI. Hopefully things are good up there in the Garden State and all that good stuff, and the Islanders and everything else. IUPUI playing Cleveland State today, by the way, in case anybody was wondering. Still nothing good to say about IUPUI. They've lost 5 in a row. Cleveland State, not the same team as since Dennis Gates decided to leave town, but they're 9-8 on the year. They're coming off win over Green Bay at home last Saturday. Don't expect a ton of points in that game. Cleveland State 341st in tempo, 302nd in effective field goal percentage. IUPUI 244th in tempo, 310th in effective field goal percentage. On the plus side, they're 357th in turnover percentage, so there's that. They score over 50 now. Well, that's, I guess, it's a bar that they can cross. It's still a low bar, but they're coming off 55 against IPFW Thursday night, and then they're in the middle of a 4-game homestand because they played IPFW at home. They play at Cleveland State today. They play Oakland at home on Thursday, and next Saturday, Antoine Davis and Detroit Mercy coming to town. Just looking real quick at Ken Palm's win percentage or win probabilities. IUPUI is currently favored to win one more game this season, that coming against Green Bay on February 4th. Don't you dare miss that one. So good for the Jaguars as they try to not become the laughingstock of college basketball. Am I saying the unders in play? Let me see what the number is for that one because I haven't taken a deep look at it here. Oh, wow, they moved it up to 130.5. It's a high total for them, isn't it? Let's see, lines 11 or 11.5. Favor Cleveland State. Total 130.5 across the board. It's a lot of points. Just see what we've seen from IUPUI lately. I mean, they've actually gone over that number in 3 of their last 5, but that was against Wright State and Youngstown State and Robert Morris. When they played Northern Kentucky, they didn't even break 100. You look here, Wright State likes to run. They're 38th in tempo. Youngstown State 141st, but they have a very good offensive team. And Robert Morris is middle of the road, but they're middle of the road in everything, so that doesn't surprise me that the game got that high. Cleveland State, however, not necessarily known for doing anything good. 230th in offensive efficiency, like I said, 302 in effective field goal percentage. They don't turn the ball over, but they don't get a ton of possessions either. 341st in tempo at 63.7 possessions a game. I think you might end up in the mid 120s. I don't know if you're going to get over 130 with these two offenses. You look at Cleveland State's biggest offensive output of the year. They hung 92 on Detroit Mercy, but that goes back to the fact that Detroit Mercy likes to run. And they hung 82 on Green Bay. And Green Bay has the worst defensive efficiency in Division I. By the way, Green Bay's 2 wins this year. They beat IUPUI by 7. They beat UMKC by 6. All that seems like an eternity ago if you're a fan of the Green Bay Phoenix. The Mavericks over the Trailblazers, you're getting 1.5 points. The Lillard questionable. Where have I been, D? Here on Saturdays at 9 a.m. We're talking about potentially expanding the show to doing it more than once a week, but it comes down to, the same thing that comes down to with everybody that does videos. It comes down to views. It comes down to interaction. It comes down to likes and all that other stuff. So I always say, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your neighbors' friends, tell your friends' neighbors where we are when we're on, so that way people tune in and watch the show. So that way we can make it good for everybody. Be on more often. Get you guys an opportunity to make an impact, and so you get stuff more regularly. But it comes down to views and everything else, which is totally understandable. At the end of the day, it's a business, and if we're investing the time and stuff to do all the research, and it's not, we're not getting the response, then it doesn't justify doing it, 4 or 5 days a week. Yeah, I know. I was used to the everyday thing too, but it boiled down to we're trying to figure out the best way to generate the most traffic and everything else, because we weren't getting the kind of views that we would expect when we were doing it every day. So we're working on it. It's a work in progress. That's a phrase we used to use in the military, and we'll use it here too. I mean, I love doing the show. It's a lot of fun. It can be time consuming doing the research, especially on Saturdays, because you got to go through it. You got to look at every game and see where the lines don't necessarily match up, and what works and what doesn't. And that's why I always say, we put in the work, but we got to have interaction. We got to have people commenting and liking and subscribing and all that stuff, and people get premiums and all that to justify that we're actually here. But enough about that. Let's finish up the shot in the dark. The Coyotes, look at that number, plus 300. Do I expect them to win outright on the road against the Wild? No. But look, you can still get them to lose by 1 and still get plus money. Or if you're really, a glutton for punishment, you can take plus 2.5 and minus 160. The Coyotes, I like Vejmelka as their goaltender. He's been a workhorse for them, even though they're the Coyotes, again, still not a good hockey team. But let's face it, Minnesota has been streaky at best. They're 12-8-1 on home ice this year. The Coyotes, you're looking at a team that's playing in a small arena, but here they're on the road. Minnesota, like I said, they've been up and down. They were blanked by St. Louis. They lost in overtime to Buffalo last week. They lost to the Rangers in a shootout, and then they are coming off a win over the Islanders. But in that game, it still wasn't very high scoring. It was just 3-1. So you have to think that Arizona, if Vejmelka plays decent hockey, and he's 11-15-4. His save percentage is the same as Marc-Andre Fleury's at .902. He can keep you in the game. I like the puck line in that one as far as that goes. North Florida and Kennesaw State. Wow, we're going down to the – let's see. Going down to the A-Sun. Kennesaw State's a pretty good basketball team as far as being a mid-major. They beat Queens last week by 9 on the road. They're coming off a 13-point win over Jacksonville. They've won 4 of their last 5. North Florida won the first meeting, 9 days ago. They won by 3 at home. But you're looking at a North Florida team that's not necessarily a road powerhouse. Just take a quick look here. See the line's 7.5-ish, depending on where we're going here. A couple books have it at 8. Kennesaw State's 7-0 at home. North Florida's 1-10 on the road. Just taking a look at who North Florida, how they've done on the road. Lost by 41 to Gonzaga, lost by 8 to Washington, lost by 1 at Duquesne, lost by 40 at Kentucky, lost by 5 at High Point, by 34 at Houston, by 26 at Pitt, by 6 at Stetson, by 25 at Florida Gulf Coast, by 9 at Jacksonville State. That game came on Thursday. North Florida doesn't force turnovers. They don't play defense. They give up a ton of offensive rebounds. And they live and die by the 3. If the 3s aren't falling, North Florida's not winning. Kennesaw State has their weaknesses defensively, but they're a pretty good offensive team. I think Kennesaw State can cover 7.5. I can't put faith in a North Florida team that only has success at home. And I don't know if you can count on them having 4 guys in double figures again like they did. I'm sorry, they had 3 guys in double figures. I don't think you can count on Placer hitting 10 of 15 from 3-point range in a game where he was 1 of 5 from 2 like he was in that game on last Thursday. I don't see it happening in that game. North Florida was 15 of 28 from 3, 14 of 25 from 2, and bricked 12 of 28 free throws. I don't see them shooting better than 50% from the floor here. I think Kennesaw State will get the win. The Sabres over the Predators. I know Buffalo's trending the wrong way right now. They've got 3 straight losses. Maybe going on the road will be something that will be beneficial for the Sabres. The Predators, roller coaster team. They're like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Unfortunately, that doesn't help Nashville fans who are trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with their team. And I see this line's actually shifted back a little bit too in favor of Buffalo. Uli-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start against Saros. That's the expected goaltending matchup. Going out, Nashville playing their 3rd game in 4 nights here. They lost to Toronto, then they lost to Montreal. Those games Wednesday and Thursday. And, the Sabres still first in the league in goals per game. I look for them to be able to beat Nashville. You're welcome, Skillwell. Hope everything's good with you as well. The Chargers over the Jaguars, we talked about a little bit earlier. I don't know if Jacksonville's offense can survive a game if they play as badly as they did against Tennessee. And the Chargers are healthier than they were in week 3, even with Mike Williams being hurt. This line is ping-ponged around. I've seen it where Jacksonville was favored. Then I saw it as a pick-em when we were doing the show earlier this week with Steen and Rachel and Rocky. Now the Chargers are favored. I've seen it by 1.5. I've seen it by 2. I've seen it by 2.5. I think the Chargers will probably win by 3. I just can't put faith in a Jacksonville team that looked so bad offensively against Tennessee and needed a fumble recovery for a score to win the game. The Kings over the Devils. This is mainly because the Devils played yesterday. The Kings are good on home ice. Phoenix Copley has been a shot in the arm for the Kings in net. He's 12-2. He's really taken over that backup role that was Cal Peterson's before he was placed on waivers earlier this season. I had forgotten that Copley was in the league, to be honest. But the Kings 25-14-6 overall. They're second in the Pacific, 2 points behind Vegas, but Vegas has 2 games in hand. Kings have won 3 straight. New Jersey, they're a great road team. 16-2-1 away from home. But playing the second game of a back-to-back, you have to wonder if their legs will get heavy in the third period. I'll take the Kings at the crypto.com arena. Wake Forest over Boston College. I've had a lot of success with Wake this year. Like I said, I took them against North Carolina with the points last week. I took them against Florida State at home on Wednesday. They won there and covered. Steve Forbes has done a good job with that team. And Boston College is Boston College. 8-9. They hung tough against Duke last week, losing by 1 at home. Then got beat by 16 by Miami. They're a better team at home than they are on the road. They've beaten Virginia Tech at home. They beat Notre Dame at home. Like I said, they took Duke to the wire. But they also lost to New Hampshire at home in December. And they lost to Maine at home in November. When you're losing to teams from the American East, I don't have faith that you're going to beat a team from the ACC with any regularity. And I'm only giving 2.5 points with a pretty good Demon Deacons team in that one up in Chestnut Hill. Belmont, minus 4.5 over Northern Iowa. Belmont, people leave. They change conferences. They just keep winning games. Casey Alexander's team has won 3 straight. They've won 6 of 7. The one dud in that span was New Year's Day against Southern Illinois, where they lost 63-45. Since then, they bounced back by beating UIC, Missouri State, and Valpo. Northern Iowa, they've won 4 in a row and 6 of 7, but they started the year 3 and 7, including losing to McNeese State and Richmond, San Francisco, Grand Canyon. They're coming off a win over Murray State on Tuesday, but going on the road, I don't have a ton of faith in them here. I'm going to take Belmont. The Panthers still trying to figure out decent secondary scoring behind Bow and Bourne, and they haven't found it yet. Missing all those guys like Pickford and stuff has really taken a toll on Northern Iowa. They're trying to piece it together. It's a work in progress. UAB and Louisiana Tech. We talked about UAB a couple weeks ago, and they didn't play as well as I thought they were going to. I think it was last week against FIU. They lost in overtime. They've lost 3 in a row by 2, 3, and 2 points. Andy Kennedy's team snake bit in those close games of late. They love to run. Their 10th in the country in tempo. Louisiana Tech 81st in tempo. They're coming off a 2-point loss to North Texas. Before that, they beat UTEP by 2. They beat Rice by 6 in overtime. It's going to be a nip and tuck game the whole way. Both teams are going to run. But Louisiana Tech's inability to stop teams on the defensive end, 331st in effective field goal percentage defense, 352nd in 3-point defense, will be their undoing as UAB gets the win. And Travis Etienne over 76.5 rush yards. Like I said, he ran the ball 7 times against Tennessee, and that's not going to get it done. This Chargers run defense is non-existent for long stretches of the season. Chargers 28th against the run. They're dead last in yards per carry allowed at 5.4. They gave up at least 200 yards on the ground 4 times. They gave up at least 150 10 times this season. So they gave up 150 or more twice as many times as they held an opponent under 100 yards. In the first meeting, Jacksonville ran for 151. Sure, James Robinson was the feature back at that point, but Etienne is more explosive. And if they run, halfback power, if they run the stretch plays to the outside and get a lineman out there, the Chargers could have a tough time slowing them down. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure. Should be entertaining. Of course, the 2 games today, 3 games tomorrow. Miami, Buffalo, the Giants and the Vikings, the Ravens and the Bengals. If Dick Vitale's around, you'd be talking about, it's backup QB season, baby. That's right. You're going to have – we don't know who's going to play for the Ravens, whether it be Huntley or Anthony Brown. We know it's supposed to be Skylar Thompson for Miami, and the Giants will have Daniel Jones against Kirk Cousins. Today's probably going to be more entertaining unless you like blowouts. I don't see much going the way of the visiting teams in tomorrow's games. And then the Monday night game, of course, is, Tampa Bay, Dallas. One quick factoid about that. Tom Brady, 7-0 all-time against Dallas in his career, including that 19-3 win in Week 1 this season on Sunday Night Football. That will wrap up today's show. Thanks for stopping by. Glad you all managed to get in here in the early hour. Thanks for sticking with me while I tried to wake up. It's always entertaining after a late Friday night to be up and come up with all the information for Saturdays. But, it's the best day of the week for sports with all the college basketball. And there's always a ton of hockey. You got the NBA, and now, of course, the wild card playoffs starting this week. Like we say, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Ring the bell so you know when we're here. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors' friends, tell your friends' neighbors. Don't care who you tell. Just tell them to be here so they don't miss out. Once again, if you use the promo code on the bottom, you can save 50% off any of the premium packages. That's at experts.winnersandwhiners.com. Like I said, yesterday was a good day. 6-0-1 on the individual game side. Both 4-team parlays on premiums cashed out yesterday. One was almost 11-1. One was 13-1. So why miss out? Get in there now. Save yourself 50%. Again, thanks for being here. We'll be back next Saturday at the same time, same bat channel. Enjoy the wildcard games. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck with your bets. Hopefully they all can pan out for you. And we will see you next time here on Just Parlays. I'm Chris King. So long, everybody.